Welcome to Annunciation Radio's Faith with Reasons, the program that examines what the church teaches and why. Faith with Reasons.
Well, greetings and welcome to Faith with Reasons, show number 570. Ron Finn along with Shane Stanfield here in the spacious Annunciation Radio studio. Hello, Shane. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I hit the button hard enough, but apparently not.
Palatious. That's the word that kind of came to mind. Palatious?
Spacious.
Spacious, but I mean palatious, too.
Yeah, it is kind of palatial. Yeah.
Palatial.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
It's very ornate in here.
Yeah, very.
It's the people that are in it that are adorn it so wondrously. Anyhow, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Real good. And we're getting closer and closer. We're, 17 days away from Palm Sunday.
So Sunday is the second scrutiny.
That's right.
Yeah.
And these scrutinies are very important.
They are.
So if you're an OCIA or really are becoming baptized, right? Mm-hmm. Then the scrutinies really kind of, it's kind of that step where you're really thinking about it again and you're recommitting.
So I'm going to freak everybody out. These are exorcisms.
Yeah, they are.
Yes. Yeah,
but explain that, because that's very true.
So yeah, and you would think, oh boy, they're doing exorcisms, and it's not like the Exorcist movie, of course. I mean, these people aren't in that bad of shape, but there is a series of exorcisms. That's what these scrutinies are for, and it's just a prayer to vanquish any type of influence that they may have had in the past. We don't know what kind of contact they've had, but it's to expel this, prior to them coming into to church at the Easter Vigil. And there's prayers, intercessions that are said. There are two prayers that is conclusion of the scrutiny. The first one being the exorcism, and the second one's kind of like that wrap up. And in between those two, as time provides, and we usually allocate for this because it is pretty impressive, but Monsignor will go to each person and place his hands on their head and say a silent prayer, and it's pretty interesting to see, and I hope everybody gets the opportunity to think about that if they're witnessing a scrutiny.
Yeah, go to that mass for sure.
Yeah. And
I think it's people, parishioners who have been, longtime Catholics and are welcoming the new incoming, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They almost take these things as just another step. It's just one more thing that they have to do. It's everything the church does, they do with a meaning.
It's
with
very
depth,
purposeful.
And very purposeful.
Yeah, very, very, very purposeful.
So it's not just here's one more thing, check this box and you're good to go.
So I prepped. I've got five OCIA participants in our program that are students at the school, mm-hmm. and 4 of them are getting baptized. So I prepped them the week before, and what they're going to expect with the scrutiny. And I told all of them, I said, you know what this is, and it's like, no. And I said, mm-hmm. We're looking at 8th grade, 6th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade. And I said, well, this is an exorcism, and you should see how big the eyes get, and so I asked him at class on Monday, I said, do you feel any different from yesterday? Well, what do you mean? I said, remember what we covered last week? so yeah, and I had to remind them. I was like, oh, yeah, wow, well, was that why we got, the hands on the head? And he was really firm with his grip. So we had to squeeze all that out.
Wow,
it was fun. It was fun. It was fun with the kids, but they're all taking it very seriously and very, very happy to be a part of this, including the adults too. I only have 2 adults that are going for baptism, mm-hmm. So they're no longer catechumens. They're the elect of God. Yeah. So that was done at the rite of election a few weeks ago at the beginning of Lent. So
yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yes.
And the wait is, it's the light's getting brighter.
Oh yeah, the light is at the end of the tunnel, clear. It keeps getting brighter because we're getting closer and closer. We're halfway through already. So
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
Absolutely. It's great to have Nathan Maurer back in studio with us on Faith with Reasons. It's been a while since he's been on, but he's the parish life coordinator, Diocese of Toledo team lead for parish strategic planning and evangelization, and part of the Department of Discipleship and Family Life for the diocese. and of course, deeply involved in the Ministry for Healthy Parishes, helping guide pastors and parish teams in a variety of ways. Nathan, welcome back to Annunciation Radio's Faith with Reasons.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. It's great to have you here. This is, I think, a perfect time to have you here as well.
It's great to be here. Yeah. And I apologize. I'm still getting used to getting out of our new building. So
that's right.
We have now moved, the diocese has moved to the 23rd floor of the Fifth Third building in downtown Toledo. The tallest building up there.
Well, plus you got to park and you got to go under the tunnel and you got to go up the stairs and down the hall and then up the up the escalator.
Yeah.
And then then you got to check in right at the desk. Then you go to the elevator and then you go to the 23rd floor and then you check in up there.
Yeah. So because you've been up there.
Yeah, I have, and it's it adds 15 minutes to
Well, and the tunnel today was flooded. So the tunnel underground under that street there was full of water. You could go through it, but your toes got a little wet. So
wow.
But thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
Wow, torrential downpours today.
Blessing us with your presence.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's
mutual.
Yeah.
Happy to be back.
Well, your department and your role in it, Ministry for Healthy Parishes, we're just talking about, parish events, especially now as we are with Lent and looking forward to Holy Week and these new catechumens, these newly elect coming into the church now. Yep. There's a lot that goes into, I guess, working with staffs and working with pastors and kind of being there to help them out.
Yeah, no, it's such an encouraging time. I love Lent. Easter is my favorite holy day of the year. It's just incredible. My wife and I both, it's our favorite holy day. We love all the special liturgies that we're preparing for, and we love the Lent that gets us ready for them too. It's kind of the for Christmas, because it's such a commercialized holiday in America, unfortunately. Advent just sorts of Advent is supposed to be a quieter season and sort of a penitential season leading to Christmas, but so much of that gets swallowed up in gift buying, and the holidays are always just crazy. I feel like Lent has been kind of untouched by the culture. Doesn't really care about Lent.
They'll find a way to
other
corrupt
than
it. just give the world time.
Well, they're trying with McDonald's fish sandwiches, right? That's like their one cultural in. It's like it's time for them, whatever they call it, the McFish or what, fish fillet of fish. What I haven't had one of those in years. I'd have a stomach ache probably, but they're trying to get it their way in there. But so far, the culture doesn't really care about Lent because it's other than Ash Wednesday, it's kind of a mystery, and I'm happy to keep it that way. I think there's beauty to the kind of the silence and the penitential, and it's getting warmer, which is nice, but it's also, you got a little bit of the cold weather hanging on, a little bit of penance there too. So
I just read a post with someone speaking about that infamous fish sandwich that they hadn't had it for a few years, and they went back, and it's about the size of a slider now.
Really? Yeah. They just keep shrinking them.
Keep shrinking them.
Well, they know that Catholics need even more penance. So
And I don't know, the thing that bugs me about them, because I don't really buy them very often, but they never get it square. It's never straight. It's like the fish is one side and the cheese is over here. And it's easy to make a sandwich. Just make it straight.
Just put it straight. Yeah.
Anyhow,
it's hard enough to find those. It's hard enough to find those perfectly square fish. But
I
then
know.
you gotta.
Yeah. Well, they're out there somewhere because they're producing a lot of those.
They are. Yeah. Now, fish fries, of course, in this diocese and so many others are just so great. And we're going to each one of them and doing broadcasts.
That's great.
Last week we were at St. Jerome in Walbridge, where they do perch, and they're serving like 900 dinners.
Yeah, that one's famous.
It's huge. And then the week before we were at St. Aloysius in Bowling Green. We're going to be at Most Blessed Sacrament this week, another big one. And then 3 more after that. I know we're coming to St. Joan of Arc.
And I just heard today, and I was shocked to hear, but I think it was over 400. And it blew their expectations. They actually ran out of food. They were scrambling at the end, so they were not prepared for that. But that's good news,
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. And of course, we were talking this morning on the morning show about we're seeing so many young Gen Zs coming in, and there are pictures and interviews. There was a whole spread, and it was on like Fox and MSNBC and everything.
Yeah.
And there's a YouTube thing on there. St. Joseph in Greenwich Village in New York City there. And you've got young people that are out the door in line waiting to get in.
I saw that.
Just a regular Mass.
Yep. Yep. 5-10 years ago, I would be shocked. I think now it's less shocking, and that's great that it's sort of, we've seen this trend sort of happening. And my wife, in our previous few years ago, she was a campus minister before we started having kids, but she worked in campus ministry at Brown University, which is in Rhode Island. It's one of the most liberal, sort of anti-religious campuses you might think of. It's Ivy League. It's small, but it's very just intense.
They're too smart. It's too smart for faith, right?
Well, that's what the culture would tell you, right? But the Catholic Center there is run by the Dominicans, who are fantastic, young Dominican priests, and she worked there, and the students there were incredible, and it was these young, incredibly intelligent. These are future doctors, future surgeons, future lawyers. They're all in these really deeply intellectual fields and super stressed out about their academic work, but they would come, and they're some of the most reverent people at these masses, and they're wanting to the Gregorian chant is what they're choosing for although it's beautiful. There's actually like a combination. They would do a combination of like praise and worship and Gregorian chant. They'd bring in like the old and the new to their masses, and just this beautiful combination of like, this is the faith of our young people, right? And this is at one of the most secular universities you could possibly imagine. It's like, this is happening, especially with not just with the young, but especially with the young. And this is just, it's incredible. We were actually just at a retreat, Shane, with Joan of Arc a couple weeks ago, and we were talking briefly during one of my presentations. We were talking about the culture just in general, and the worldview of the secular world and all these things. But we were talking about how after COVID specifically, like we had this kind of shock to the system, which I do think that God.
I was paying attention.
Yeah, I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you, right? You're taking notes but there was this sort of cultural reset that happened where it was like, oh my goodness, look at all these things, all these systems that we depended on are now failing us, right? The government doesn't seem to know what they're doing. The medical field is like a chicken with their head cut off. They don't know what they're doing. All these really things that we thought were secure. You trusted them, right? All of a sudden, all that's gone.
It's gone.
And everybody's just saying, yeah, well, you're on your own. Good luck. Try not to get sick. So young people especially, but I think everybody had sort of a reckoning with this and said, okay, if all of these secular institutions, like the government, like my career path, all these careers got nuclear bombs dropped on them, kind of like I can't even rely on my salary or my job. Where do I turn? What is going to give me stability? Because I can't pretend that there's stability in these worldly things anymore. So where do I turn? And now, 7 years later, which is crazy to think, that was 7 years ago that it started. That the fruit is starting to be seen. I think you're seeing people coming forward and saying, this is where I'm finding security. This is where I'm finding stability, something to stand on that's not going to crumble beneath my feet. And especially young people are looking at this and saying, I need that.
Even a young person that hasn't just has their eyes open partially can see how many institutions have changed. And changed in just recent years. How far they've kind of gone, just off kilter, off track, and they can easily see that and recognize with the Catholic Church that it hasn't changed. And you mentioned earlier about how reverent these folks are at these Ivy League schools. And I think there's a desire for old-fashioned church because there's a beauty there that you can't you can't dismiss, and it's attractive.
It's very attractive to think I'm singing the same. Some of my favorite old hymns are I was trained. I've done cantoring for churches for years and have been trained in sacred music, and I love chant. I've trained in Gregorian chant.
I didn't know this.
And some of it's one of my favorite things. I won't push the singing on you right now. That would be inappropriate. But I do love it, and some of my favorite hymns are in Latin. And just to think that these same hymns, these same words, some of them have been sung in almost those exact same words for almost 2,000 years, right?
Yeah.
This is incredible. And just something that old, you don't get that in TikTok culture. You
That's
don't,
right.
a trend on social media.
There isn't a contemporary rock
and,
band, version of those.
Right, exactly. You can't, right? It's even our country is only 250 years old. You think of America as being, we're new golden age and we're going to last forever and this is the best country in the world. It's like, okay, we've only been around for 250 years. Like the church has 10 times that amount of history. Right. And some of this stuff goes back that far. It's just that's so powerful. And it's that in itself is an argument, even if you don't explicitly state it. This is an argument for some kind of truth, right?
Yeah,
we know
absolutely.
It's the whole truth.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, it's very attractive. I know this Lent I've been listening to more chant, just because you need to escape.
Yeah.
All right, so you don't want to have the noise of the regular podcasts and the newscasts and the music and so forth. You don't want to clutter and create more, noise pollution, if you will.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to just kind of let's get in rhythm of the church here.
Yeah.
And chant really helps you do that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's just like it's sort of an antidote to the noise and the constant motion. And there's something about the unity, because so in Gregorian chant, it's really interesting. The whole goal. Often you'll have a group of people. Sometimes it's monks or nuns or anybody. Mm-hmm. But the goal is to unite their voices so that it sounds like a single voice.
Yeah,
that's when they train you in Gregorian chant, they train you not to stand out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when so often our culture is based on like who can be the loudest and the most unique and the most, but chant is specifically how much can you blend with the people around you to make one voice. So symbolizing the unity of our faith, the unity of God, right? Ultimately. Yeah. So there's a lot of beautiful stuff that we could talk about, but there's just, it is an antidote to the culture. And I just a last note, my dishwashing these nights, oftentimes I'm up in the evening washing dishes and listening to something, and I've skipped the kind of news update podcast that sometimes I'll listen to recently, and I'll put on chanted night prayer. So it'll be, and there's a couple places that you can get that, Spotify, or I use the Hallow app sometimes, but they've got chanted night prayer in there, which is not in Latin, it's in English, but it's still just the chant and it's just, it's the perfect way to end the night, right?
Well, and of course we're discussing the young adults and the attraction for the young adults, but, we can't dismiss the older adults as well. They've seen what's been happening over a period of time. This has been in the works. We obviously the Protestant churches keep going, keep pushing that envelope. But my latest student, and I won't name names, but my latest student, 72 years old, Lutheran, and faithful, her entire life, and she's just now saying, I'm just tired of that gradual going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And is in class right now as we speak with me.
Yeah.
To enter the end of the church. Now she can come into the church at any time.
Sure.
She's already baptized, so we're educating her during the day, and just a marvelous student.
Yeah.
Very just soaking up everything like a sponge, asking questions, reading on her own, and everything. It's quite a treat. But it's this. The big box church down the street that's got the laser show and the smoke and whatever else, and you got the rock band, and it's not cutting it.
Yeah,
it's not cutting it for folks.
Yeah. It's so. I was just listening to something about this the other day that it is. Our and I grew up. So I went to Franciscan University, which is a very charismatic university. Mm-hmm. I grew up with praise and worship and all these things. I have nothing against that. I think it's beautiful. Yeah. I think I've used it for personal prayer so many years and so many times. And so that absolutely has a place as well. But the combination, and it's interesting that it's sort of the old and the new, right? The ever old and ever new, as Augustine calls God. He said, beauty ever ancient, ever new. Yeah. So you're taking the new and the old, but it's as long as it's from the heart of God and it's from this spirit of prayer, and there's just a lot of really beautiful things happening. And I'm happy to hear about your student. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love people like that.
She's not my only older student, but she is the oldest.
Yeah.
And just to hear, you really do that head scratch. It's like, you're 72 years old, and now, why now? I asked her that specifically, and she just said, I've had enough.
Yeah.
But how beautiful, because it's been in the works for a while. She didn't just wake up one day and just say, I'm going to go do this.
Right.
But it's amazing that you've got this draw, and she's part of this biggest, what I call it a class, OCIA, not just here in the Diocese of Toledo, but all over everywhere. There's massive numbers.
Yeah.
Detroit, Archdiocese of Detroit, 1,400 and some people are coming in.
Wow.
And let me ask you about this. Do you find it unusual, or are we neck and neck with them, because they're bringing 1,400 and some in, and we're at almost 700.
Right.
For for the Diocese of Toledo? It seems like we proportionally, maybe we're doing better than they are. I don't know.
I think. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. If you had Andrew Reinhardt on, he would know at the drop of a hat. He would say Detroit is exactly this much bigger than Toledo, and this is. I unfortunately can't do that. I don't have that gift, but I do know we are smaller than Detroit by quite a bit.
Yeah.
And our numbers are beautiful. Our numbers are great.
It's amazing.
I was at that rite of election at the cathedral the other day, a couple weeks ago, and it was just a standing room only. And our cathedral is a big place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was standing room only. You had folding chairs along, and all every gap had a folding chair with somebody sitting in it.
The cathedral is amazing.
Yeah, it was just amazing. It was incredible. So just so many signs of hope, and you have these people, once again, like you said, your student and others like her, just that are saying, after so long of doing it one way, I think I'm ready for something. Something even more true, even more stable, and that's Christ and His church, right? The fullness of the truth. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah. I'm blessed to be a part of it. It's a treat for me. I just started my job in August.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have asked for it. It's not even real work. I mean, it's great.
It's a great feeling. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, the real challenge for the parishioners is we need to adapt. I mean, as parishioners. Yes, we want to be welcoming, but how best to do that? And how best to make this parish, I guess, fulfill what the expectation is from these that are just coming in.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole talk about welcoming new people into the parish. I mean that's just the biggest question of all, I think. Mm-hmm. And what I always will say to people is you really have to begin with the personal holiness of your priest, your staff, and then the people in your key roles at the parish. Because the reality is that no program, and even no, I will say, and this isn't to knock these parishes or these ministries, but everybody wants to start kind of a greeter ministry at their parish, right? Well, we really need greeters at the door. We need people smiling. We need to, and it almost, and once again, I don't mean this to disparage, but it kind of reminds me of like, we need a Walmart, we need it's kind of, need the Walmart model. You have somebody there to say hi and smile to you. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's kind of a funny comparison, but if that's where I think that can be wonderful. I think especially training your ushers, in to be kind and to be welcoming, and even just those folks you're already trained to help people. You just take them a step farther and get them to remember people's names and greet them personally, and that can be huge. I think beyond that, and even before that, though, really the focus on the holiness of those working at your parish, and the holiness, for example, if your ushers are coming to Mass without and helping people find their seats, right? I would say if they're doing that without first praying together, and specifically praying for the people coming to Mass and saying, Lord, if there are new people here at Mass, reveal them to us, jog our memories, help us to maybe say a special word of welcome to them, help us to pray specifically for those people, that they can hear what they need to hear at this Mass, that they can be touched in the way they need to be touched, that the Holy Spirit can come into their heart in a special way. Your ushers are not just a social club.
That's
they're
right.
not just a logistical, there are ushers at baseball games to help you find your seats, right? They're ushers at plays. We as the church need different kinds of ushers and different kinds of greeters. It can't just be a Walmart greeting. Yeah. It should be okay, I'm not going to tell this to you, but you're new here. I've already prayed for you this morning. Mm-hmm. We as ushers, we already prayed for you. And actually we're going to get together after Mass and say a brief prayer for you as well. That you are leaving with a word from the Holy Spirit that's going to bear fruit in your life, right? Mm-hmm. That is a paradigm shift. I get that. I've been encouraging some of the priests that we work with, do that So your Knights of Columbus, hopefully they already do this, but they should be praying together before every event. If they're cooking for a pancake breakfast, they should be praying for the people who are eating that food, right?
Yeah.
They probably already do, but please, like, encourage them to. The people, the committee, sometimes it's the committee of women often who are cooking the food for funeral luncheons. Are they coming together and praying for the people they're serving? So every group in your parish, are you praying for the people who come across our doorstep? And that's going to, so being open to the Holy Spirit, that's going to open so many doors. And then, yes, be welcoming, be greeting, be all these things. And then once you're in the Mass, we could talk about that too, but the beauty of the music, the beauty of the not just the relevance, because we can chase relevance over and over and over. And I think you hinted at this with kind of like the Lutheran and sort of like the Protestant, especially the evangelical church groups, right? They can chase relevance. They call it seeker friendly.
Yeah, I don't know
is often what they will say. Well, we're friendly to seekers, which basically can mean we're going to try our best to look just like the secular culture to kind of welcome in secular people.
And I think it's where the whole rock band thing came from and the laser shows, because they want to be relevant.
Oh, absolutely. Right. We want to kind of attract people who like those sorts of things. But the thing is, and this is what, there can be a place for those sorts of things, not in Mass, I would argue.
Right.
But there can be a place for those sorts of things. But what people honestly are looking for in so many ways that I've encountered is something that stands out from the culture now. Something that stands out, something that draws them away from the noise, like we said before, and centers them and says, this is a little different, or this is a lot different from my normal, noisy, day-to-day life. So the homily, the music, yes, the welcoming there. I would argue, and I would suggest strongly, that every parish really should be doing some kind of minimum community thing after every, maybe not every Mass, but every big Mass. You know, if it's your 10:30 Mass is your biggest one. Yeah. Just have donuts every week.
Refreshments.
Take some donations. Offset the cost a little bit. Yep. But if you have the budget for it, do this after at least every big Mass. Bring people, that's the place where people are friendly and come together, instead of just, because I've heard from a couple people recently saying, well, I tried out the Catholic Church, but people just sort of like, they come to Mass and then the priest says, go in peace, and then everybody just disperses back to their cars.
If they didn't leave before the end of Mass.
Yes, exactly. Right. If they don't leave before, and then everybody's gone. Everybody's running through the parking lot like they got to get somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And
got to get a breakfast.
But it's amazing, too, how easily we can be trained out of that.
Yeah.
Again, depending on the leadership of the parish, the pastor. I know at our parish, we have donut Sundays with the instruction to us that you can only have a donut if you introduce yourself to somebody you don't know.
That's the donation.
You got to meet somebody, and you got to, tell them your name, ask their name, see how the kids are doing, that sort of thing. All right, then you can have a donut.
That's great. That's wonderful.
But nobody leaves early because they know they're not supposed to.
Right.
You got to remind them.
Yeah, exactly. Friendly reminders.
Yeah. Like closing the gates of the parking lot,
What's that?
Closing the gates of the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You can't leave.
Lock them in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, doors won't open.
That's right.
Nathan Maurer, our guest here on Faith with Reasons. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Courage, an apostolate of the Catholic Church, ministers to persons with same-sex attractions and their loved ones. They also have an outreach called Encourage, which ministers to relatives, spouses, and friends of persons with same-sex attractions. Endorsed by the Pontifical Council for the Family, our beloved John Paul II said of this ministry, "Courage is doing the work of God." Please visit the Courage website, couragerc.org, to learn more and find a Courage chapter near you.
This is Dale Ahlquist with a Chesterton Minute. Patriotism is a natural virtue. It's natural to love our country just as it's natural to love our family and love our home. But G.K. Chesterton says, the true patriot is always a little sad. Now why is that? Because everyone who loves his country wishes it were better. Chesterton says we have to hate the world enough to want to change it, and love it enough to think it worth changing. So when we criticize our nation, we do it out of love, because we want to improve it, and because we want to be proud of it. We obviously don't want to be ashamed of it. That's why we want our country to be virtuous and moral and godly. And Chesterton says, The more transcendental is your patriotism, the more practical are your politics. Want more than a minute? Visit us at chesterton.org.
We invite you to join us each weekday at 3 p.m. here on Annunciation Radio for our Hour of Grace and Mercy. We begin first with the praying of the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Following that, we have Mass from Rosary Cathedral. This is an invitation to set some time apart in prayer and reflection with us, your friends here at Annunciation Radio, for this hour of grace and mercy. Share your prayer requests with us at chapletprayer@gmail.com.
Now, back to Faith with Reasons here on Annunciation Radio.
Hey, welcome back here. Shane Stanfield with Ron Finn, and we have live in studio, in person, Nathan Maurer. Nathan serves as Parish Life Coordinator, Team Lead for Parish Strategic Planning and Evangelization, part of the Department of Discipleship and Family Life of the Diocese of Toledo. Now, I'd like to see that fit on a business card.
My goodness, yeah, I think you guys even add a couple other things in there. I've that title is it gets longer every time I hear it. So,
very good. Well, you're deeply involved in the ministry for healthy parishes, helping guide pastors and parish teams in a variety of ways. You were recently at my home parish, St. Joan of Arc, which is the parish for the radio station here, and exactly to do that. Went in. We called it a parish retreat, but to prove to you that I was really paying attention. We closed the last half hour with the folks that are volunteering, liturgical ministries at the church, encouraging them to pray. And I think that's pretty much and pray together. But I think that's pretty much the way that they perform their duties. That's an outflow of this prayer. So if they're leading a healthy prayer life, they're praying together as a team. You're going to get hopefully brighter smiles and interactions with parishioners, especially newbies. People that are coming in off the streets. But my takeaway from the retreat was, I know this is an amazing thing, but the parish staff should be praying.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Right.
But no, it makes sense because we're there to do a job, and a lot of times people just don't think that we are church staff.
Right.
We work in a church building.
Yep.
Maybe we should be doing a little bit more praying together as a staff. And I really think that's where it all starts, because we do work better in that capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. I could tell you were paying attention. You see, you should give the next retreat, Shane.
I had to prove to you I was paying attention.
But I think it all comes for me, at least. I'll speak from my experience. So I was a member of the Culture Project years ago. Mm-hmm. That was my start here in the diocese. Yeah. And at least professionally, and the president of the Culture Project, she's now stepped back from the organization, but the founder and president, Christina Barba, I'll always remember this as long as I live, because it made such an impact. But this was her baby, right? She created before she actually had her own actual babies, right? But the missionary program she had before she was married, before she had her own family, and she was really sacrificed everything to start this missionary program from nothing. Mm-hmm. And she said, so she gathered about 30 of us in the first year, 30 missionaries, and sent us all over the country and just said, go and speak. And we're speaking in schools and churches about, we came to Toledo and gave 100 talks, over 100 talks in 2 weeks. Wow. As part of that tour. My Subaru died at the end of that. We lived out of my little Subaru for about 2 years in there. My. But anyway, she would say that the first goal and mission of the Culture Project was to make the missionaries into saints. Mm. And then you can go and talk to the students and go be in the schools and go do your job.
Not while, but
exactly.
And then.
But she said that your talks have to outflow from you, your intimacy with Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. She even went so far to say, I don't care if we give a single talk this year. You could take all the talks off the schedule. If you become holier, if you missionaries become the saints you're supposed to do, we don't even have to do a single talk. We should do talks because it's an outflow of what God is asking us to do. But the number one goal is the holiness of the missionaries, and that'll always stick with me.
Wow.
And the essential point is, if you yourself don't know Jesus Christ, how can you share him with other people?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're not transformed in Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that too. As Dr. Ted Sri at the Augustine Institute, he hammered this home when I had the joy of being in his class years ago. But he said essentially, if you are not spending daily prayer time with the Lord, then all you can give other people is yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of times doesn't amount to much.
Exactly. Right. People don't need more. People don't need more of Nathan Maurer's love.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
right.
my love is very flawed. It's very, you ask my family all the ways that I try, but I fail to love them well every day. And, we're always improving, hopefully.
Yep.
But I need to be in union with love himself, who is God, right? And he's the one that I want to be loving through me.
Marinated in that grace.
Yes. And that's where real evangelization and real power comes from. It's not from, and I don't blame parishes for thinking in these terms, because it's so ingrained in us in a culture to always be after the newest trend or the newest best practices. That's
Right.
That's right.
the corporate term,
Yeah.
right? The best strategy. How can we say the perfect thing? How can we do the perfect event? How can we do all that is important. I'm not taking away from that, but you could have the best practices of all time, but if you don't know the Lord, then they're going to go nowhere.
Right.
It's not going to bear fruit, because the Holy Spirit is ultimately the one who has to give growth to anything that we're doing.
But if you're going to put on some festival, whatever it may be, or do a adult faith formation class, or you name it, anything that a parish is producing on a day-to-day basis,
Yep.
or do a weekend event, if people don't see Christ in that, then go to Cedar Point,
Yep.
or
Exactly.
and then it's not very special anymore by going to the parish. And maybe that's why we see people running out of Mass at the end of after Mass every day, because they're always going someplace else.
Sure.
There's no desire to stick around.
Yeah.
And I know people have schedules. I know that maybe they are in a hurry to get to breakfast,
Sure.
whatever the case may be. And we're not going to be able to change that. But maybe people are more inclined to stick around for the after Mass donut and coffee, to socialize with folks, get to know folks, if they're attracted to that by what they see.
Yep.
Yep,
100%. Yeah, and even so, Pope Benedict, I can't quote him precisely, but he said essentially that we have no hope of competing with the secular world when it comes to flash and the lights and the music, and we have no hope. Our budget just we don't have the same budget that Taylor Swift has. I'm sorry, but we just don't. We're never going to get there, and we wouldn't want to. Right? It's like we can't possibly compete in these secular entertainment arenas. And that's okay, because we have a different arena, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So circle back to what we talked about in the first half, right? With what you just said. You can't compete with the world, but how many I don't know what it would be, like non-denominational evangelical or whatever. They tried that. They're trying the rock bands and the whatnot, and you really aren't going to compete with what's in the outside world, because people are there thirsting for Christ, and if they don't get Christ in that experience, then they're going to go elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. There's a beautiful, and I won't belabor it too much, because we've talked about this already a little bit, but I went to a Protestant revival, I guess you could call it. I think they called it a revival at an evangelical church in college. And with some friends, we went to check it out, and just to, not because we were thinking about converting, but because a friend of ours said, hey, let's go see what our Protestant brothers and sisters are talking about, so we can be smarter in how we reach out to them and befriend them. And it was just a local church near Franciscan. And the preacher was a visiting preacher. And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, he was sort of proclaiming, at some of these revivals, he was proclaiming, and people were saying, amen, they're clapping kind of in the it's like a homily, but with, with audience participation, right? Yeah. And they're going, amen, preach it. What are all these sort of maybe stereotypical things, but it was that's what was happening. And he said, I foresee a day, brothers and sisters, when the Lord is going to come and he's going to live among us, and you're going to be able to go to a church and sit in his presence, and he is going to live among us in our churches, and everybody's, preachers, bring the day, may it be sooner, and I'm, oh my goodness. St. Peter's Catholic Church is literally right like a couple blocks from here, and it's right now, brother. Like, I just wanted to get out there, it's right now. It already happened. And it was so beautiful to see all these Protestant people that are hungering. What they're hungering for is the Eucharist, right? He's talking about the Eucharist. He's saying the Lord is going to leave his presence among us in he didn't use the word tabernacle, but he might as well have. And like, the Lord is going to live among us, and we'll be able to sit at his feet in his presence and be loved by him. And like, it was powerful. I was like, so the desire is deep. The desire is there, but only in the Catholic Church can that be realized, right?
So my last parish, I was involved in youth ministry, and the team was involved in an organization, and we went to this, I don't know what you call it, a conference to learn how to be better at this program that they were trying to get involved with. And we went up to a suburb of Detroit, and it was held, it was ecumenical, and it was held at a big box. I think it was probably an old Lowe's or Home Depot or something converted, you know. And we went there, and I remember distinctly it was a theater. I mean, it was theater seating. Yep. It was like a half of a concert hall, and the stage was it had one or two drum sets, and you could see all the light things and the smoke machines and all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a big presentation on whatever day that they meet.
Right.
And we got done. We're walking out of there, and we're all talking. Well, what did you think? What is your takeaway? The very first thing I said, did you guys notice that there is? I mean, obviously it's a Protestant church. So I'm just like, I said, did you guys notice there was any crosses?
Yeah.
This is why I didn't see that. And I said, I looked in the hallways, I looked in the worship space, I looked everywhere. I said, it wasn't a single cross.
Yeah.
Now I know Protestants are against the whole, Jesus crucified. They don't like crucifixes.
Right.
But growing up, I don't ever remember a Protestant church when I was really young. I don't remember a Protestant church that didn't have a cross in it.
Yeah.
And this place was void of a cross. And going back to what this preacher said, I picture a time when Jesus is here. Well, where at least is the cross? Yeah. Where at least is his reverence?
Right. Right.
I think you're totally missing the boat.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the logical, and a lot of my family is Protestant. I love them dearly, and we've had conversations over the years, but that really is the end result of the culture, is that we want to get rid of anything that reminds us of suffering. Right?
Yes.
That is the worldview.
And we want an entertaining service.
We want entertainment, and we want to avoid suffering. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the cross is literally the symbol of the greatest suffering that's ever happened, right? The torture and death of God himself, right? Yeah. And if you take that to the conclusion, well, why would we want to remind ourselves of that? That's so gruesome. That's so terrible, right? We'd rather focus on the music and the happy things, but that's not. We got to go through the cross. We know that as Catholics, we have to go through the cross to get to the resurrection.
And maybe that's why
stumbling block for many. Right?
Yeah, and maybe that's why some people become disenfranchised with Catholicism, because they sit through Mass and it's like, well, what was that? And they're not getting what's going on around them. They're not getting the beauty of the Mass. They're missing that. But what we started this program with today is this attraction of all these young people thirsting for something that they can only find in the Catholic Church. Yeah. So they know where it's at, and they're going for that. And yet there's so many people that are leaving because they're bored. Yeah. Yep. They want that feel good experience, and it's not that you can't experience these things from time to time as a consolation during Mass. They happen, but it's not the point. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the goals are different. Although we do want to use beauty, though, and that's really what's sometimes we can sort of get in this idea of like, well, Jesus is there. Why do you need anything else? It's like, well, yes, absolutely, 100% true. Yep. But if our music is not beautiful, if the church space is kind of muddled and you're not really sure, there's kind of ugly banners up, or this isn't as common anymore. So many parishes have come such a long way, praise God.
Yes.
But the more beautiful your space is, the more the worship points to something higher, right, than just us, right? Yeah. That's what's really attractive, and I've seen it, especially. But not just young people, but especially with young people. Yeah.
Yeah, it all kind of ties in. I mean, we all need to be evangelized too, even though we are supposed to evangelize.
Yes.
I mean, we need that evangelization as well. We need to feed our spirit.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference. I think a lot of people make the mistake that thinking that evangelization is the same thing as recruiting. We're not looking to add numbers. We're looking to help souls.
Yeah, exactly.
And share our faith.
Yep. And it really comes back to, what am I able to give to others? I can't give what I don't have. Mm-hmm. So if it's not just about the numbers. Christ was so interesting. He spent most of his time with the group of 12, right? And he did these events with the 5,000. These episodes with larger groups are in there, but the majority of his 3 years, as far as we know, was spent with these 12 guys. And he said, this is enough, right? I'm forming these 12 men so that they can go and evangelize the nations. And really that's where evangelization has to start, is with the people who are in your pews every single week, who are showing up for everything. I kind of joke with some of the priests that I've worked with and staffs, that so many people will say, well, we have all these events and we have all these things, but it's the same people who show up to everything. It's these 5, 10, 15 people. They just show up to everything. It's like, how do we get new people? I was like, well, Jesus might have thought the same. Do you think Jesus said that about the 12 apostles? Like, man, I just keep having all these events and these 12 guys just keep showing up. They keep following me around. Like, how do I get new people? Like, that wasn't Jesus's goal. Like, it's so we follow what he did, which he invested so deeply in this small group of guys, mm-hmm. who then went out and got the 72, right? Mm-hmm. Who then went out to the 5,000, who then, after the resurrection, they're going farther and farther and farther. That's how your parishes should be modeled. Don't obsess too much about, well, we got to get more numbers, more people, got to fill the pews. Yes, that's important, but that will come. I promise that will come if you are pouring deeply and growing in holiness with the people who are already there, and praying deeply with them and for their needs, and building community. And the pews will, if that's God, ultimately God has to give the growth. So if that is his will, God will fill the pews. Yeah. But we have to seek him out first.
And now, in your office and in your resources available to parishes, they reach out to you and your department, yourself, others perhaps. What is it? Does it start with like an assessment to kind of figure out where the parish is first?
Yeah.
What's the process
so
like?
the first step, we go and we meet with it's usually the pastor and maybe his staff, or even the pastoral council sometimes. It's whoever, that kind of smaller, can be a decent sized group, but usually it's a smaller group. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do is we'll present kind of, this is the reality of the parish. This is kind of where we're at and we will talk about, the numbers and kind of finances and sort of these things of how healthy is the parish on paper. Mm-hmm. But then what we do is we go to the chapel, we open the church and we go and pray in the midst of that meeting, and we say, what are our church's greatest strengths? What are our weaknesses? Mm-hmm. What could God be calling us to? New opportunities, right? So we pray through that individually, and then we come back and we discuss those things, and we say, okay, here's kind of our beginning thoughts about where not just where we think we are, but where God might be saying where we are and where he wants to take us, right? And then after that is when we survey the whole parish. So we'll send a survey to everybody. People have a few weeks to fill it out after Mass usually, or after, fish fries or wherever you want to give it out, and then from that information, the same questions are on there, right? Strengths, weaknesses, and then questions about people's faith, and just to get you kind of a wide, tall view of what does our parish really look like, And then from that, we go back with the small group and the pastor, and we pray again about all of that. And we say, okay, where is God speaking through not just the voices of our people, that's part of it, but through what he said to us and through this process. And then we build a plan. So we're going, and what we love to say now is we're past the age. Andrew talks a lot about this. My colleague Andrew Reinhardt, he talks a lot about this, and we've taken it up. Is that the age of the 3 to 5 to 10 year strategic plan, or like we're gonna, that's kind of gone. You can't make a 3 or 5 year plan these days, because by the time you're in like year 2, everybody's forgotten about it, and then by year 5, you're like, wait, did we have a strategic plan? That was weird. Wow,
wait a minute, we made
dust that off.
There's this binder here that we haven't looked at, and But what we say is, okay, what's the biggest thing that God's calling you to work on in the next 3 months? Mm-hmm. One thing. Don't come to me with 20 different things. Don't come to me with, with 20, these are everything that we need to fix about there probably are 20 different things. I don't deny that,
right,
that we could work on, right? Or probably more than that. But choose the one thing that's the most important. Do you have greeters at the door who are friendly and who are well trained? And we don't, and actually our ushers are kind of grumpy and like maybe need okay, the next 3 months you're going to go back, you're going to retrain your ushers, you're going to get that stable. 3 months from now we're going to talk about the next big thing, and we're going to say, okay, what's God calling us to now? We're going to really work. Could be your website, it could be, the Knights want to do more meals for people and praying with people. It could be any number of things. Mm-hmm. But it all starts with prayer, which we've said so many times now.
How often do you find, so if I understand you correctly, you start with the parish staff or the pastoral council,
yep,
and you go through this about what they see. They got their vision, and then you go out and you survey, the parish the members of the parish.
Yep.
How often do you find that these things align? And how often do you find that they're just totally in 180 direction, degrees different?
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes I will say they align fairly well. I mean, there's always going to be outliers,
sure,
but especially I'll say that the pastors, they tend to know their people very well, and they're on the ground and they're with their people.
And there's probably a trickle down, at least with the pastors and their parish staff, so they've got a feel for what's going on, the lay of the land.
And I'll say, and this is all credit to the parishes I've worked with, that the parishes I've worked with are just they're amazing places with great staffs and great pastors, and they're doing their absolute best to know their people, to be with their people. And so if that's happening, your vision is going to be somewhat aligned at least. I think the biggest sort of division that I see is not necessarily between like staff and like people in the pews.
Yep.
And oftentimes I'll meet with the pastoral council, and those are people in the pews. So it's like you have that kind of crossover too. So but it's the generational difference of like all the older folks are wondering how to get young people in the pews. And the younger people are wondering about they're wondering about actually how to get more young people. The young people are like, how do I bring my friends?
They're looking around, so we want more of us.
Yes, exactly. So that's probably the biggest, if there is a discrepancy, that's where the divide is like the generational divide of like what older folks are looking for, what younger people are looking for, as far as the practicals go.
Would you say it's a sign of more of an unhealthy parish if you do have a significant divide between what the office sees and what the parish as a whole? Once you survey them, that'd be a good indicator, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's a good initial indicator of okay, there needs to be more communication here.
Somebody's missing it. Yeah.
And he's quoted all the time, but Pope Francis said, the shepherd should have the smell of the sheep.
Yeah.
Right. He needs to take on the smell of the people he's serving, the souls he's serving, and that goes for all of this, right? If the staff is like, well, we really think we need more, Deacon Joe Malenfant always used the example, not to put him on the spot, but he always used to use the term like balloon festivals. Like when it's like, well, we really need more balloon festivals at our parishes. And you want to step back and say, is that really what we need here? The people in the pews are saying that they'd really like more family ministry, or they would really like more Eucharistic adoration is something that a lot of young people are asking for. Is like more Eucharistic adoration, more devotional things, because unfortunately in the last 50 years or so, a lot of these sort of traditional Catholic devotions got sort of pushed away and said, well, we don't really do the rosary anymore. Yeah. We don't really do that. That's less common now, praise God. But I know in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when things were more turbulent, I have heard that like there were people who were actually like discouraged from praying the rosary. Yes. It's like, well, that's the old way. We don't do that anymore.
They were kicked out of seminary.
Right. It's like, we don't pray the rosary. It's like, oh, I'm so sad to hear that. It sounds terrible. Right. And young people nowadays are please teach us how to pray the rosary. Please give us Eucharistic adoration. Please give us, beauty and truth. And I had a couple of acquaintances in Denver when I was out there who converted to the Catholic faith because of the teaching on contraception.
Wonderful.
Which everybody says like, oh, that's a scary teaching. We don't want to tell people that because it'll scare people away.
It's a hot button issue.
Guess what?
Don't bring it up.
Yeah, actually, young people are really intrigued and attracted when you say a tough teaching, but you stick to your guns and you say, no, this is
last
actually
night's class at OCIA.
Is actually beautiful, right?
Yeah.
This is actually good news.
Yes.
And let me explain to you how it's good news and how it's actually meant to free you, right? So anyway, that could be a whole other discussion, but there's
I've
good
been in
things
both
happening.
camps. I really have. I've been confronted as what it's healthy. We should be discussing. It's like, no, we don't do this. These are sensitive issues, and they turn people off. Don't discuss it. And it's like, huh.
Yeah.
And now it's just the opposite. I made this a part because this is part of the program, the faith formation that we're using for OCIA. And last night's session was exactly that. It was human sexuality. It included contraception and all of this stuff.
Yep.
And wow, people were fired up.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was happy to see that because it was like, oh, we don't want to talk about this. It was it was actually one younger woman in particular was quite vocal because, quite frankly, we talked about this earlier. We've lost trust in the government agencies that have done nothing but push drugs on women in thinking, well, this is part of your womanhood is to take the pill, and they're at war with their bodies. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, they're cancer causing drugs that are within these medications. Right. And she knew all about it, and it was like, praise God, you're speaking up in class and being quite vocal. And you're right. They want to talk about this. They want the word proclaimed, the truth proclaimed.
Yeah. And as long as we're doing it in a out of love and in a place of, these are said not to shame you out of the room, but this is the truth. And it's actually, like I said, this is part of the good news. This is part of,
and the alternative is we have natural family planning.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Which is also promoted in that same session. So.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
You're in the trenches doing
enjoy it.
Doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
It needs to be done. Praise God.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Now, what can people do, I guess, neighbor to neighbor, pewmate to pewmate, really to kind of foster that kind of environment? I know we just got a couple of minutes left, so I wanted to kind of get that out there. As us sitting in the pew, we're maybe saying hello to the people next to us. We don't know them, but there they are.
Yeah.
Can we do more than that?
Yeah, I mean, the communal events after Mass really do help with that. It's you try not to make the actual sanctuary of the church into like a social thing, because people might be trying to pray and all these things, and then that can get a little touchy. But it is important. You make it a point, and this is something that pastors really can take the lead on. But make it a point to say, do greet somebody on your way out that you haven't greeted before. And that's just both my wife and I spent time as missionaries in various ways, and that's just a skill that you learn. Anybody can learn it. How to talk to somebody that you've never met before.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, how are you doing? I haven't seen you
around.
That
is a thing.
Right. Or as our conversations often start, hey, your baby's really cute. Like, or people compliment our kids, like, oh yeah, your kids are beautiful. They were waving at me during Mass. Or kids are a great icebreaker.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
But little things, human things, be normal, and maybe invite somebody out to breakfast afterwards. You never know what could happen.
Very cool.
I love it. Well, Nathan, as usual, we've barely scratched the surface, so I appreciate you spending the hour with us here on Faith with Reasons.
Thank you.
Love the work that you're doing, and I think it coincides nicely when you look back at when you started with the diocese and how attendance and the interest in church has grown exponentially since then. You've got to be responsible for all of it.
Oh, brother. Well...